Yes, checking in, people. Wonderful day. What a beautiful day. Yes, as we are surfacing around the globe and getting closer to that big kickoff. How are you feeling? You feeling the same mood? Yeah, you feeling the same vibes as it was November the 18th? Get out of here, man. Yeah, people, bless up on yourself. Thanks for tuning back again. Really appreciate you guys being here again, supporting the channel. But what a wonderful day, you know. Give God praise to be here. Because if November the 18th can be the historic day, then look, March 26th, March 31st, it gonna be historic and we are waiting on it. But let's talk about what is ahead of us. And today, match day live, March 26th. New Caledonia is on the horizon, people. You understand? New Caledonia is on the horizon. I want to know, like, is it like you guys feeling optimistic, like the same way back in November the 18th, a couple months ago? Are you feeling the same vibe? You're confident? What is the mood around the place? Yeah, what is the mood? Did you sleep well last night? Look, I slept like a baby. I even know when I fell asleep. Get a lot of rest. Cause tonight I could be a long all day. It's gonna be a long all day, so we are gonna get used to it. I don't think. Look, we're going to win. Uh, we are going to win today, but after the game finish, late into the early hours of March 27, I don't think I'm going to sleep. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to sleep. I'll be celebrating all night this victory. I'm feeling it. Yeah, I'm feeling it, man. Like I've said it, and I'm going to say it again. We should be beating this team, regardless of what is around the game, the spectacle, the high stakes, the pressure, how the players going to feel on the day. We heard, the gaffer, we heard the captain, we heard the players speaking on it as well. Like, listen, the football play on the pitch. Oh my God, who is this? Yeah, so you know we hear the player them a talk about it, and the coach a talk about it. You know, me not look. Me not believe Speed. I feel Speed have done enough homework on this team, but he don't really want to let too much out of the rabbit hole of what he have learned about this new Caledonia team. What he expect from them. He's just looking at it on the inside of outside. Like, I don't know what they're going to bring to the party. I don't know what kind of liquor them will walk with. Many of them will walk with the ice or the sanitary cup, or them will walk, with a big pot of curry goat and white rice. We don't know what them are gonna walk with, but we feel like Speed have done his due diligent work behind the scene, because if you follow the history and the traits of how this gaffer manage Cavalier, always prepare, always sharp, always do a lot of homework. Heard him on multiple interviews talking about the games and how he prepared for Cavalier, especially for the Caribbean Cup. He scout the Dominican Republic teams, the teams from Puerto Rico, other parts in the Caribbean. You have said it. So I guess he's doing mind games in the press conference. And it's not the first time, we hear Speeder come out and I say him don't really know much. He's going to adjust based on what they're going to bring to the party in the first couple of minutes. Yeah, you can always adjust, but at least you're going to study and you're going to do your geographical research on this team, and the players and the coach, the culture. Look, I'm a YouTuber and I even try to go on chat GPT and type in the radio programs in New Caledonia. But when I get to it, they are speaking their local language or they are speaking in French. And I try to even run that radio program through an engine where it could translate, and it wasn't working, to the standard of where I can really, understand what they're talking about. And, I use, the internet to surface and check, what time they talk about sports. And I heard they talk about, the New Caledonia game, but I just cannot get into, the French phase of the translation, because I think they're using a different dialogue. I don't think they're just speaking the French that they speak in France. They're speaking a different dialect. So the AI engine did a struggle to really translate of what they're trying to say. And then you have a few hosts, you heard the dialogue, like they chip into their local language. So me can't really understand. So even me, I try to do my research. Even me, I try to tap into their space of trying to hear what is really going on, what is their expectation, how they really feeling about this game, and I can't get it. So I know Speed have the resource. I know he have Wise Code. I don't have Wise Code. I know he have a lot of resources where he can tap into and get his homework done in around this New Caledonian team. So I guess Speed up play a mind game, but I like it, and I respect the different perspective and the players as well. Efran, speaking, Richard King done a magnificent, piece around that interview as well. Big up to the press officer, Simon, have chipping in with, with his bilingual languages. So he speak English, the Spanish. We heard him speak it as well, I think, in Nicaragua as well, with us playing them in I think it was the Nations League. So, we know Simon is very versatile with that. And this is why I always said, like, regardless of his flaws, regardless of what we really want him to tap into and evolve, the entertaining package around the Reggae Boys and how you really highlight the players and the interviews. Yeah, would I love to see him, a lot more. But he is that, he is that guy. Yeah, he is that guy. He's very, mature at this moment. He's very intellect with different languages. His versatility around the sports. No different sports. So he is the man for that position. But we want him to evolve. I want him to step up. I want him to update, just like how our devices at home that we use on a daily basis. It update. At times, your iPhone, your Android, it want to be updated and it want to go to the next level and the different software. So that's how we're asking for. But Simon is that man for the job. So people checking in as usual. Yeah. Honestly, I think we will win. Yeah, look, I'm going to say, man, there's no reason why we can't beat this, this New Caledonia team. There's no reason. There shouldn't be any excuses on that football pitch. And I'm going to say this as well, man. As much as Speed might be not that likable person in his position at this moment, but I don't think Speed can really do much. to get the players to beat this new Caledonian team. Yes, he's going to be important on how he set up the starting 11, his in-game management. I know it's going to be flexible, in around the 90 minutes. Yeah, and we don't want this game to drag out behind the 90 minutes, So we want to get the game done. 90 minutes comes, blow it off. We want to get a very good start. We want to get the game under control real quick, and to get the game under control and to let us see what is their game plan. And it's to bring the game to them, and it's to get the ball in at the onion bag. So if we can, if we can bore them onion bag a few times in around the first half or of that game, later, it's going to open up the game, and it's going to allow them, to say, listen, we have to go to plan B. There's no other way to get out of our shell and just try to attack. But if we manage to get this team to reshape, get compact, having time to organize, frustrate our attacking players, it's just going to get difficult, and the more closer it get to the 90 minute, it's going to be nerve-wracking, just like what we see. I believe that probably the last 30 minutes of that Curacao game, I think nerve really kicked in, and the players just couldn't, know to deal with the pressure. Look, you can miss goals because of pressure. Maybe if some of those opportunities would have probably came a little bit earlier, probably would have put some of those chances away. But again, Bobby Reid, there's no excuse on why you missed that opportunity. But New Caledonia is up on the horizon, and I love it. I love it. World Cup qualifier, playoff at this moment. And after November the 18th, a lot of us were really frustrated, and we didn't know where to turn, as much as we know that we have a second chance. But we, as a people, we weren't looking forward for this FIFA window. We were still looking back at the catastrophe, the 18, and we're like, where are we going to turn? Where we're going to, bring our mental space, and where's the mindset going to be? And now we are here fast forward, and I know that it's very important to remember what happened on that day, and to bring back some beautiful smiles, and the beautiful Jamaican ladies around the globe, and also the man them as well that's going to watch a game inside of the stadium, their living room, who's going to be at work, on the graveyard shift. Look, it's going to be, chaos for that New Caledonian team. Look more from there. It's going to be chaos. There's no way that team should get the positive points to bring them to the next round. If that happen, we need to rule up players them and put them in a barrel and let them off in the Gulf of Mexico. Let them find them way back to them club. There shouldn't be no excuse. And Speed just have a few job to do. Look more from now, are the player them have to go perform. The player them have to go look themselves in the bathroom mirror before them left the team hotel. And said, listen, we need this. We need this. Our back is against the wall. As much as we are the favorite, the outright favorite, the overwhelmed favorite, they have no rights according to the bookies to win that game later versus the Reggae Boyz team. They have no rights according to the bookies, right? But we know the bookies hype up the scenario around the game, them hype up the game just to get, the financial, boosts for their company. But there's no right for this team to beat us. I would be shocked. I would be devastated. I don't know if there will be a comeback for a lot of us as fans if we lose this game. Look more from now, We don't know if there's gonna be a shock, to be honest. So let's what's going to happen, man. So if you guys really want to give your say and give your takes around how you're feeling, you're feeling much better, your mindset in a better position than what in November the 18th. Are you a bit more mature of what happened that last match day versus Curacao? You're setting your expectation a little bit higher or a little bit lower. Let me know, man, how you guys really feeling, because I would love to know how are you feeling at this moment. You understand how you take the day off, you at work, you at home chilling, you on vacation, you in Mexico. I would have loved to be in Mexico, but that little violence that erupt I was like, that was the last straw, man. You understand? That was the last straw. So big up Ballproof TV as usual. You know what go on. Yeah, I definitely know, Speed definitely know what go on. Speed is too much of an intelligent figure, on how he think the football. Whether or not, you like it, but he's too much of an intelligent figure to not know what is going on with this new Caledonian team. I know he do his proper scouting research on this coach. And I know he's done his proper scouting report, even on the star boy Angelo, who expect to make his debut in later game. Yeah, I know he have done his due diligence work on these players and coaches. Up bro, up we all can smile later. Look, there shouldn't be no reason why the Reggae Boys players can't put a smile on our face. This cannot be a one-game series. This have to be a two-game series. Yeah, we have to bring this series to the last whistle until the fat lady sing. And where the Reggae Boys team, I'm highly anticipating that we will be dancing on that other side after the fat lady sing. Not the fat man, we done an African Cup, though a Morocco, a dance pan the cheer them. Not him, because I mean, think him gonna sing or him gonna dance March 31st. I mean, I think so. But no, the Reggae Boys will be happy. Yeah, we will be happy at some given point, in this two-game series. But New Caledonia is on the horizon. I think New Caledonia can stop all the J.A. Corners or be a sharp man. Like, the man them, look, I have go as far as, try to surface some of these players, their background. I try to even look what some of these New Caledonia players do outside of football, because they are semi-professional. Some of them are amateur, and I found a few players in the squad who are farmers in their early days of getting, as a semi-professional in their footballing career. So a lot of them were farmers. That's why I said, man, this is like a farmer squad, and we have got ox them out of the ground. Grandparents, root out a yam out of the soil. You understand? Some of them money are farmers. So all respect, man, to this New Caledonia team. I respect them for where they at. They have done really well in their region to get this far. This coach as well, he has won a regional trophy for them. I think it was the Oceanic Games. Yeah, so he have some achievement, for this team, and he's a very passionate guy. What I'm reading around him as well, and the discipline. Yeah, one thing though, where me I get a lot of scouting reports from different websites. This team, the cohesion, yeah, it's very strong. The mentality of knowing that we are going to be the underdog. Yeah, knowing that we are going to be the underdog, they strive and stuff like this. They strive to be the underdog. They strive to be the little minnows in the little, on the pitch. So let's see what they will bring to the party. But look, I'll even be disappointed to see them score a goal, to be honest. But we should be using set pieces, the corners, if we can use up the long throw, use every facet, to get a goal, even if it takes, to bulldoze at them in them own box, even to be explosive on the wing. And if you use your physical strength on them, we need to see something. We need to see the team, get a win, the most important. And if them can demonstrate, and send a message to DR Congo, like, listen, this is our brutal force, and this is what we are going to use, and we are going to bully our way, to this World Cup. And if at that it I gonna take, as long as we get the points, it is what it is. The same way they can't understand us. I think them easily can scout our team because we are out there. We are out there. We are a bigger nation. We are much bigger, in the footballing landscape than a New Caledonian team. So I think they easily can get a lot of reports on our players. Look, our players are playing at all professional. Yeah, them money, the English Championship, it's easily to scout a player in England. Even the JPL, they can get videos, they can get stats around the local base players that's in the squad. They can go on Ellis, they can go on Fuller, Instagram page and see what these guys are doing. We can't even find an Instagram page for a lot of these players. Then they really have nothing. You understand? Then they really have nothing up on the web. They are very difficult to scout. So I know it's going to be a difficult task, but just as how they're difficult to scout, I don't think it's going to be difficult later for this Reggae Boy team to get past the New Caledonia team. Yeah, we're going to have some difficulties in the game. We're going to have, periods in the game where we're going to struggle. We're going to be frustrated, but it's how the leaders, the experienced ones, have been in around this block playing in this type of, tough game, the magnitude of this game of do or die. This game is like a cup final. They're going to have to step up. They're going to have to help the players, right? They're going to have to help the players massively, especially if Efron, if Brooks, going to get a start. It's one thing to play for your Yorkshire team, Sheffield United, or you're playing for Covs. Yeah, it is a different pressure. You're playing for your local team. Coventry is like a local team in England playing in the AFL Championship, right? The same thing. Sheffield United is one of so many teams in Yorkshire. But when you put on that black, green, and gold, you are playing for a nation. You are playing for over 2 million people locally in the 876 and the island. And then you are playing for over 3 million people living in the diaspora. So it's a lot bigger scale. The pressure, the magnitude of playing for your country, the FIFA World Cup. There's no other event, in this world bigger than the FIFA World Cup. So the pressure, man, it's going to be right up there. But each one help one on the pitch. You understand? Each one help one on the pitch. But I know, Brooks, Efron, Tyrese, I know they played in pressured moment. I know they played in pressured game. So if they can, slightly adjust themselves and even, align it to, their past of playing in some big games, of, their application must be right, the way they execute. Football is just one language on the pitch, and they know that, listen, first touch, perfect. Second touch, you're going to release, or you're going to take another touch to let the space open up a little bit more, and then you release. Football is like ABC 1, 2, 3. It's not just playing the football, it's thinking the football, and you have to think the game right. You have to think the game the perfect way. Yeah, you don't just go out there and run like a headless chicken. Yeah, you don't just go out there and run like a headless chicken. You have to think the game. Yeah, a lot of players can play the football, but you see the headpiece. If them did have at least 5 to 20% of this, of thinking the game the right way, the IQ level, they will be probably on the level of where Ronaldo and Messi is at, So it's not just go out there and run up and down, man. It's thinking the game, helping a teammate, and play a team game. Big up to halftime TV as well. Much respect to you, bro. Bless up yourself. That's what we need to do as well. We can use Patois as a code. Yeah. I don't think a lot of these players probably understand English, as I was even researching as well how much of the population in New Caledonia speak English, and I couldn't even find a percentage. I could not even find a percentage. They all talk about the French and their local language. That's what's speaking most in New Caledonia. As there's a French territory, yes, you have probably a few people in their population that speak English, but you're not going to find a lot of people in New Caledonia speak a lot of English. Especially given tactics. Yeah, I don't think speed is going to give away anything. Yeah, people, like up the live, man. Yeah, the link is in the description. I think it's pinned down there. So if you want to have your say, tell me what you think around the game, what to expect, how you feeling, key players going into this game later. Give your opinion and thoughts. Yeah, the link is down there. Yeah, big up Sherman Scott as usual. Having a feeling New Caledonia is going to try and play a physical game. I wouldn't be surprised if a New Caledonia play and get a red card. Like they have no other chance of try to be physical or try to be stubborn. If they come and try to play open up, these players, looking at some videos, I think I've seen like 3 videos of these players getting together, getting to their pace, in around the training pitch, and they doesn't strike me as some full blown professional. Some of them look overweight. They just don't strike me as a team that is 100% there. Yeah, but they're going to understand. Like, listen, playing against TRT, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, like playing against this team, it's a lot tougher playing in the Caribbean and in just the CONCACAF, our Central American team. Just use CONCACAF as well. It's much harder. It's much difficult to get, in around and, to wiggle your way in this region. This region is difficult. So let's see what's going to happen. And then, I don't know how much, maybe what the 2,000 to 3,000 feet above sea level, is going to affect them. I don't know, because where they're located geographically, I mean, yes, it can be very hot. It can be very hot in their country, and like the Australian weather, it's like the opposite, to what we facing at this moment. So I don't know how much the weather and the climate, the altitude, is going to play factor around the New Caledonian team as well. It's not a big altitude in Guadalajara like they will face in Monterrey, up further north, or close to the Midwest of in Mexico City, where the altitude is much higher and it plays a bigger factor than in Guadalajara. So I don't know how much that's going to play, but again, they get there a bit earlier than us, so they will be customize themselves and try to get used to what is they're experiencing at this moment. So the game start. The game what? So the game will start what? 10 p.m. Jamaica time. That's all I can say. 10 p.m. Jamaica time, 2 p.m. New Caledonian time on March 27. Yeah. Bless up yourself as usual. Mention Walker. Listen to me though. Think the man them are come for lose either though. Understand? Don't underestimate no side. I'm not underestimating this team, but look, to be truthful, if we can't beat this team, man, it's going to be a dark time like the eclipse in Jamaica for years to come. Yeah, this will be one of the most. This will even probably be more worse than probably Melissa, but people lost their life in that natural disaster that happened. But just even look over the mountain of the Reggae Boyz, losing to New Caledonia later from now. I can't even imagine it, man. And I don't want to even think about it. I don't even want to try to imagine what will be the outcome, what will be the aftermath. Yeah, I don't want to even imagine that. But I don't want, the player them to underestimate the team. They have to be professional, but their quality should be good enough. That's all I'm saying. Their quality on the pitch should be good enough. We more likely are much fitter players than them. Yeah, our players exposed to better infrastructure. There's just only one player in this team that is playing right up there. And I still can't fathom my mind how the hell New Caledonia get Angelo Fulgini. How the hell? That has to be a personal and a family decision of, I'm going to play for New Caledonia. It has to be that. It can't be the team. It can't be the infrastructure around their national team and their footballing fraternity, really attract the eyes of, Angelo Fulgini. I just can't imagine how he made a decision just straight off the top of his head and said, hey, I'm going to play for this national team. It has to be, one, the love of New Caledonia, which he stated on the FIFA website, the love of that place. His family still live there. It's a place where he still venture around when he have the free time. And two, he just probably want to play some international football, or him just feel idle. That's to be one of the reasons. Yeah, get me? I say that is just one of the biggest recruitment I have ever seen and ever know of a national team recruiting a player, New Caledonia. Yet this player is good enough to play for Ivory Coast. And I would love to ask. Yeah, I would love to ask. I even, having some, not some big conversation, but have conversation with the player. And I try to get my message across. But, it's business time. try to give the player, as much space as you want as well. But I have a few conversation in him. But the last sets of conversation that I left on his phone, I really asked like, what transpired? Yeah, what transpired? Why you make a such decision? And also like, would you come on a Jamaican platform to talk about the game and talk about your life story of representing New Caledonia and why you didn't try to even try to represent, Cote d'Ivoire? The player was born in a Cote d'Ivoire, but you probably have no ties, to a New Caledonian mother, to a French father. I probably have no ties, to Ivory Coast. So you probably have no affection of that place. He just probably luckily to just born there and then he just doesn't live there anymore. So maybe it's just something like that happened and transpire for them to really, go and get this big recruitment. Like I've seen, a few headlines, speaking about the New Caledonia previewing the Jamaica game, and I spot one of them where they said, like, listen, Angelo Fulgini is one of the probably the biggest recruitment they have ever seen in the international landscape of them recruiting a magnitude player that for a team that don't even have 20 professional in the international squad at this moment. So it's just it is what it is. Maybe it's God given for him to come and give us some challenge. And I don't know. Wish him the best later. But I know Angelo can't be Jamaica alone. In one man just cannot beat this team. It was full of too much top player playing at highest level. And this squad is totally different in terms of players are playing. If you look at our attacking players, compare to the November squad, a lot of our players are playing now. Cephas is getting game now, and Calamatier was getting game. Now he wasn't, he's not getting any game for example for some reason. But if you look at it, we have quite a few players on tip-top shape at this moment. We are getting, the minutes. So I think this squad is a lot brighter and a more well all-rounded balanced team than the last game. So Isaac Hayden look even more comfortable, playing for QPR, one of the most important player in this, in this team as a six. Now, he's going to protect that back line, or he's going to protect the midfield and, try to, demonstrate, his CDM roles in around this game and to protect himself and his teammates. So, all we need to do is to get the ball in the box by any means, force them to make defensive error, whether that's air ball or true passing direct plays. Look, I think we're going to see a mixture of different patterns of play. I think, maybe we're going to see the team, to really settle the football, try to get passes, in the first 10, 15 minutes. It's very important. Yeah, knowing playing into a high-stake pressure game is very important in the first 5 to 10 minutes. You try to get all your teammates, a touch on the football. You try to, you get your most influential players in the game as early as possible. Get them warm, get them, enough time on the ball where, okay, they're feeling the ball at their feet, they're running with the ball at their feet, they're making passes. And as soon as, the most important players that's going to be, the decisive one to really change the game, has been the game changer. When you get these players quicker in the game, it will be a lot more for any team. Once your danger players get in the game, as soon as possible, start to sweat, start to feel confidence, not misplacing any balls, connecting the pass, the right way, connecting the crosses the right way, getting the set pieces, on point as well, finding a teammate. Then he will like, listen, I'm having a very good day. And then, he will pick it up from there. They're experienced enough, to even maneuver themselves of, first two passes, not so good, misplaced passes, the confidence, like come on, you start to beat yourself up in the chest. You start to thinking like, come on, I need to get going. Yeah. And they will relax and then they will get themselves into the game. But it's very important though to get even the Andre Blake, just a touch, just to feel the air, in the ball, and just to feel what it is to just kick the ball, getting it, around his feet. And then from there, man, we start, to really ball them money off of the park. I want to see us, try to figure them out, play with a lot of pace. Yeah, we need to start the game with a lot of pace, a lot of intensity. We need to keep running because a team that is been known to love to frustrate, bigger opponent, they're going to be compact. And one of the last thing I really want for you to have them turn over the ball, and then you start to build up, from the back, or you start to build up wherever you win that ball, and people start to take 3, 4 touches on the ball. No, the sooner you try to break through them when they try to at least counter or in a transition on us, the quicker we can counter attack them. It will be better. We know exactly what this new Caledonian team made up of. Defensively, they are not sound. If you can get them, to pull that, that unit in the middle, pull away that little unit that's blocking their back four, their back five, then we will smell a lot of danger. You understand? Individually, they know that they are not tactically better, they are not quick, they are not very strong, they're not very sound on the football individually. Yeah, just one player really good individual, but others from that, they're not really good individually. So then they will not come and play, outright football where they're just pressing us all over the pitch. I will be very surprised. You guys as well, will be very surprised to see this new Caledonia team to come and play, front foot football. We will be very shocked to see that in the first 5 minutes. So it's not going to be that case. It's not going to be that case. And you some wagon like you are good. Go away all hypocrite, Travis, you can say what you want to say. I don't know who, you're referring that to. You understand? But I'm not going to wear that cap. Yeah, you must be referring that to someone else as usual. You having always, everywhere you go, you having some conversation with somebody, debating with somebody as well. Please like up the, the like. Yeah, 21 likes is 72 listening people. Nicola Sibley's, yeah, my beautiful mama is speaking. Said, guys, come on, like up the live. Yeah, my mama is speaking. My number one fan, my number one supporter. Yeah. So if nobody know want like Media House, I know she will like it. Yeah. So big up to my beautiful mama at this moment. We are going to win, definitely. Yeah, we are going to win. Like up the live. People are kept saying, like up live, 70 people, blessings. Yeah, big up, big dealing. Yeah, big energy. Look more from now. It's a big deal later. What you say? 3-piece? 3-piece combo, or they will get a bucket of chicken. Which one? Let me know what you think. Of course, I want us to win, bro. But Reggae Boy is too inconsistent. That's the scary part. That's the scary part. Yeah. We have this thing where when we're playing, smaller, weaker opponents, probably use minnows as well. I think we tend to be a lot more comfortable, with the ball of, not progressing the football a lot, not being proactive in your play, not being the energized that we know these players can lose up a lot of energy. We're not going, we don't really use that up. It's tend to be individual brilliance, but I'm giving them a lot of leeway of, okay, it's a new coach, things going to be different. And I'm hoping that, the old players that been around the blocks compare with the new players, they will form a different type of bond, a different type of partnership. And let's see if anything can transpire, from that. So I'm just giving Speed, the players, all the best. If they can change that, if they can change us from thinking that, the Reggae Boys, they've been inconsistent in games. They know they can be lackluster. And know at times we cannot be trusted as a Reggae Boy team. Even mainstream media as well, all over the globe, at times try to figure out, why this Reggae Boy team is inconsistent, and we can start to pick, a few things around the national team that we can look at in the past of, look, this is what happened on the forefront of this national team. This is what happened, on the pitch, the players' attitude. So we don't really want to go into that, but it's all good vibes at this moment. But let's see if them can remove that stigma of, being inconsistent and being a bit lackluster around weaker opponents. So let's see what that will be. Yes, a mixture of players, they will get the job done. I love the vibes around the camp. Look, I don't think that is inconsistent. If anything is consistently, with a reoccurring vibe around the team, look, the moral aspect with the players, having, a good chat, having good entertaining package around, the vibes, the jokey one as well. You never can really doubt their energy, within themselves in the camp. As Jamaicans, it doesn't matter what we are going through at times, it's a real Jamaicans at times. If you don't really want you to know what he's going through, in life, it would be very difficult, even living in the diaspora, and people see you every day. Like, people ask me, like, listen, how are you so happy? Yeah, how are you so happy at work every day? Yeah, I'm like, I'm just like that, man. I can't let people, read into what is going on, you know in my personal life. If I'm having a dull day, yes, you can try your best at times to show positive energy, but maybe that split second you're going to give away the synergy that is around you. As, look, I'm not having a very good day. But us as a Jamaican, it's always a happy times. Yes, so many people in Jamaica. Yes, so many people are not living with that financial boots, where they living off that economy, where they have a very good stable income, where they can be comfortable, but they're making life as it's just easy going. It's the Irie, man. Yeah, man. Life good. The food, the weather, the beaches, the river. So we are just type of that people. I know I can't believe so Jamaica blow the chance. Look, I'm trying my best not to think about it. I'm trying my best to focus on, just like the players, look more. Let's give our positive energy out there in the ecosystem, and hope that will go right across to the Gulf of Mexico, where the player can feel it as well through the screen and also in the stadium. We can't underestimate the team. Yes, we shouldn't. Look, we can underestimate the team, but the players, I don't think they should underestimate the team, but there shouldn't be no reason why we can't beat this team. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I feel like even a Bermuda team will beat this team. That's how I feel. You can't have a bunch of semi-professional amateur team just rocked up in Guadalajara and took all 3 points and moving on to the next. Nah, that shouldn't happen. And 1-0, I see the Reggae Boyz winning 3-0. Yes, the most probably is 4-0. That's my prediction. 3-0. Yeah, we cannot break down the defense when we have possession. That's the thing. Like, and this is why, a player like Brooksy, yeah, Andre, is going to be very critical, and where Rudolph Speed going to play him. Looking at the last sets of games that Sheffield United play, seeing him coming off that right hand side invert, player that he loved to come deep, he loved to go a bit deeper into that right back position and to collect the football and invert right through the middle of that Sheffield United team. That's how I see him play a few times now in games. But again, what's the best role for him in this team? And I would love this squad. I will love this squad to pick, square O's, square pegs in square O's. Yeah, I don't want to see round, square pegs in round O's. We don't want to see that. I want to see the players pick and play in the at least the preferred role. We don't really want to say Efron, playing on the right, playing as a 10, as the article that I did yesterday on Efron Mr. It tells you that, listen, when Lampard came in, he was playing on the right wing. He was playing as a 10. At point, he was playing as a false 9 under, Mark Robbins, and they just wasn't getting the best. Yeah, wasn't getting the best out of him. And then Lampard get an assistant coach coming from a team that did want Efron to play, and they want to buy him. That was Millwall, to play him on that left. And he like, listen, Frank, this is where the player should play. Remove him from that role that he was playing under that different regime. Put him here and start to work on a player. And then the player start to click and he start to react to the training method, the data system that they use around him. And you have to give them credit for that. So that's what I'm talking about. If he's going to play some minutes in this game, which I think he's going to play, has to play from the left. There's no reason why he should not play on that left. That's where he's excelling at this moment. You understand? Yes, mama, big up your son. Love that. Come on, Reggae Boyz, win this game. We need to make New Caledonia question why them want to roll the leather. Exactly, man. We have to let them answer questions first. They shouldn't be the first one to be asking us like, what you going to do? Yeah, what you going to do? We have to react. We have to be proactive. Yeah, we have to be proactive and we have to react to what we did in the first 5 minutes and how we're going to follow up on that. There's no reason why we can follow up on a very good start and to stifle this team. Look, I want to hold this team. I want to hold this team. The Reggae Boys players hold this team and squeeze them. Yeah, squeeze them like this. That's how we should look. A team like FC Barcelona under Pep Guardiola, what they do best, they suffocate team when them hold the smaller opponent and them know that man to man they are not better with the quality individually per square man on that pitch. We need to suffocate them. We need to let them suffer. We need to let them even can't breathe. Yeah, they need to come out of them defensive third and don't even know how to get out. If Jamaica want to go to the next level, if we want to demonstrate ourselves on the bigger scale of world football, these are the games, yeah? These are the games that we have to make sure that, look, we get the point, we get it, and it's most important, but also moving to the next level, you have to play with a swagger. These minnows, you have to suffocate them. Yeah, wrap up them head under one sheet. Let them can't breathe. Them they even know what hit them. Yeah, give them a tsunami on the pitch. Water box them all over the so them a sweat. And then because of them have the ball, and because them have so much running, let them chase the ball. People, the pitches in Mexico, we know Mexico infrastructure. They have the perfect standard with the grass, the length, the width. Yeah, the pitch in Guadalajara is I think it's 105 by 68, 69. That's the standard. That is the standard of the biggest pitch in the world. All the big pitches in Mexico, the Azteca, the stadium in Monterrey and in Guadalajara, these pitches are 105 by 68. Huge pitch, big, expand it. Make them feel like the game are played on two different pitch. Them just a chase and a chase. Them can't get the football. If we want to go to the next level and if we want, for demonstrate that, listen, we have, the quality of these players playing in the diaspora. We have these players that born in Jamaica in very good league abroad. We have to come out and do this stuff. We have to come out and do this stuff if we want to go to the next level and to be fearful. Look at what the Panamanian team, look at even the golden era of a Costa Rican team. Look when them wall some of the smaller teams, them suffocate them let them suffer. You run around all day, cannot get the football. But when they meet the Mexico, the US, they adjust. Yes, you're going to adjust because you're meeting proper team now. So you're going to adjust. You can't really do the same. Just like the Pep team. They can have, a lot of position on the football in La Liga. But when they meet a team like Bayern Munich and teams like this in the Champions League, they're going to have possession, but it's just not going to be, the outright favorite in the ball position. It's not going to be 80-20. No, because Bayern Munich, that's their DNA. They get what I said. That's what they train to do as well, just like that. So we have to do all of that. We have to suffocate them like, look, man, we have to suffocate them like this. We can't have New Caledonia come and ask question about the Reggae Boy team. But we if you ask question first, we're supposed to keep man hold them and like some little boy out. Go buy a lollipop for me at the shop. Go buy chicks and bag juice, kick them in them body and run them way. I saw if you had them team, we're not supposed to hold long and I say, yo, nah, get the game done as quick as possible because it's a quick turnover. Bermuda and Congo play yesterday. Yeah, them play a little warm-up game, but that's not a very good competitive game where they're going to bring in a lot of energy in. It's not going to take a lot of that out of them. But as soon as we can get this game done with as quick as possible, get some players off of the bench to come on with fresh leg and get our important players off of the pitch. The quicker we do that and rest these players, because we have heard people talk about playing a 2-game series in Mexico. It's not easy. And a lot of our players in this team, maybe never play a 2-game series in Mexico, as though the altitude is not that high, but the climate will take a lot out of you, and the recovery is going to have to be top notch, and the players, the medical staff, they're going to have to work overtime after this new Caledonia team finish. Yeah, going to have to work overtime to get the boys, quick turnover. DR team very, very pacey. That's the challenge. That's where we going to have to wrap back in our chair like this. Like, yeah, it's going to be a proper show. It's going to be a proper show. And it's going to be a proper game. But me can't say we cannot suffocate this team in the first 15, 20 minutes and get some goals in and then start to have our players, just relax a little bit, passing the ball, let them chase, pull them away, and then you never know, hit them with 150-yard pass over the top, diagonal, catch them half yard while them chasing the game. Game done in the first 45 minutes. Yeah? Road at speed, looking down the touchline. Come in, young Fuller. Come in, young Ellis. Yeah, maybe we can, if the game get to that position, we can give one of those players some minutes on the pitch. So that's all I'm saying. If we want to be a big team, we have to demonstrate our business on the pitch. We can't just be winning games, and individual brilliance, because that's just not going to carry you on the winning streak, for a very long time. Good teams in this region goes on winning streak. They just don't win football by luck. Yeah, they win the game by demonstrating their business on that pitch, bringing the football to them. Yeah, so the Congo struggled yesterday to beat Bermuda, and I'm not going to take much from that game, but I watch, highlights from the game, and yeah, the Bermuda team kind of, frustrate them a little bit, but DRC, that would be a different team coming March 31st. We know that, yeah. Franklin Young, we know that. So let's see what that team. But I think, there's a few stuff that you can look into and look at some of, their weakness, and if they make mistake, and look, players make mistakes in different type of games. Games that high pressure game, they will make mistake. You understand? I think we should play a high press in the first half to get the win. No low block. Now we can't play in the low block in that game. Bro, you get the size. Yeah. JT, look, the pitches in the FIFA World Cup, yeah, it's usually be around between 105 and 110 by 68 or by 70. So that's like the standard of majority of the pitches in world football. We talk about the Santiago Bernabeu, the Camp Nou, Old Trafford, these big pitch, Wembley, these pitches are right around the 105, 110 by 68, 70 as well. So that's like the standard of the FIFA pitches that they use in the FIFA World Cup. So it's just a criteria. But I believe that the criteria, the maximum, I think the maximum might be 120 by 90, I think, but I've never seen a pitch that big. I've never seen a pitch 120 by 90. I've never really seen a pitch that big. So that's like the maximum of the length and the width, 120 by around 190. So I had a dream last night. All Blakey score. Man say I'll Blake. Yeah, the man say I'll Blake score. Yo, my people, them are the greatest. Bless yo, my people, them are the greatest. The man say I'll Blake score last. Yo, man say I'll Blake score 30. Come on, put in the work, bro. I've never looked it up, but I will remember. Yeah. Bless up yourself, bro. Bless up yourself as usual. No, you're probably going live. Look a bit after this. The players will have to practice controlled breathing to help their altitude. Yeah, I think it's not one of the the highest point in Mexico as it's like further south. So it's not going to be that outright high altitude, but it will play a factor. It will play a factor, especially in England where a lot of these players base. They don't really have that. They have like stinging cold weather. So it will have a slight, affection on the players as well. So why are you guys accept Cody? No, but when him was going to get the job, most of you guys say no, so we accept him now. I mean, look, so when somebody, like we say who's that? Is it Cody or Coley? Let me know what you think. Gaza. One Gaza, wait, rewrite that phrase. Rewrite that phrase. Is it Coley because he said Cody, but is it Coley or who you want to put there? Yeah, rewrite that phrase, bro. Franklin, don't read up too much in that game versus the Bermuda. The African are scammers like us. Like, and so we believe they weren't really trying to blow them away, but just to stretch the legs. I believe it was just down to stretching the legs. Like we have heard, the United camp came out and said that lack of games were in long days, stretch days where you're not competing in games, can affect your sharpness, can make you a bit rusty. Because look, anybody who play the football or anybody who is a student of the game that read about the game will know that, listen, having games on the training pitch versus a teammate, it's totally different on the pitch. That doesn't really give you the confidence and the drive. Playing competitive game against your peers, your rivals, look, that will bring a lot more sharpness to your game. That will bring, confidence as well. And winning games in that fashion, it'll also give the coaching staff a bit of breathing room and leg room to really wiggle around and actually have the confidence of making better decisions, and also, rotate their players as much as possible so the players can get minutes under their belt. So it's very important. But I was very pleased, with Ethan Pinnock over the weekend as well, playing against Leeds. I was very impressed that not getting the games in the cup or in the league, but ask him to start a game versus Leeds, one of the tough opponent team to go away to playing at Elland Road, a team that when you're talking about getting crosses into the box, they're right up there, in that stats sheet as well. And also playing direct pass, they're right up there. And I think kicking the most set pieces as well, they are right up there with that. I think they're in the top 10 in the Premier League. So it's good to see how you deal with the physicality and the energy and how that Leeds team plays. So it's good that, you get those minutes to really come here and to show Rudolph Spear, listen, I might not play enough minutes, but I'm still up to that level. And this is what you will get, from a lot of the Premier League players who are not getting the minutes. They're very fit. They're very, match sharp, not really match sharp, but very fit, and they're just ready. They're preparing very good, their recovery or they eat. I know the Premier League take care of them, so the infrastructure around them, they will always on a high level to compete at any given time when you call up on them. Oh, you think we should approach the game? Look, if you ask me, to be honest, I want the team, to start the game with pace. I want the team to play with a lot of intensity. We need to start to ask questions very, very quickly in the game. Yeah, we need to ask questions from this new Caledonia team very quickly, because if we continue the game after the first 10, first 15 and have them getting comfortable, we are not asking enough questions. We are not, trying to break through their defensive barrier. They will tend to get a bit more confidence, from that. So we just need to ask questions, play with pace, play with energy, and you have to be physical and get our most influential players on the football. That's very important. As you could see, the new modern era of football at this moment, defenders tend to have a lot of touches on the ball, which I think it is very bad for the game. It is very bad to see Damian Lowe, Ethan Pinnock, Richard King having more touches than Efran, Bailey, Brooks, Bailey Kadamatir, it it's just wouldn't sit well with me. We need our players, our most impactful players on the pitch to have the most touches in the most attacking dangerous areas where they can hurt this team. So PS, energy, and getting this new Caledonia team to to answer to question, that will be some of the most important things. I don't know what would be the important things for Rudolph Speed, but I guess a very good coach, a coach that will think the game properly, he will want his players to ask questions as early as possible and to get a goal. Yeah, everything that we're going to do in the first 15, try to get at least a goal. That will give you, extra space on the football, to be honest. It will happen. Afi get behind the squad, bro. Yeah, well, Afi get behind the squad. I'm talking about Jamaica assistant coach now. So you speaking about, why are you guys accept Coley? No, but when him was going to get the job, most of you guys say no. So why accept him? No. I'm I'm not sure if I don't think I was one of those guys that that reject Coley, to be honest, to get into the senior program as the head coach. I don't think I was one of that guy, but I know maybe other people out there, didn't really want him. You say, the lack of experience, maybe wouldn't, is I would say his figure wouldn't demonstrate much in the changing room in front of a lot of these English-based players. I don't know if that is true because these players are professional. They are coming to play for their country, and whoever is coaching the team, I guess that figure, just by standing in front of them alone, should demand, respect. Whether or not even some of the players, I don't know, but if some of the players don't like a particular coach or assistant, but you have to be professional. Like if the coach or the assistant asks you to do something, you have to get it done. You don't want to get the Ben White situation with Steve Allen, during the FIFA World Cup, in camp in Qatar, where he's demonstrating stuff and Ben White is just having his own way. Wasn't interested, wasn't buying into Steve Allen for many different reasons. We don't know. He was mistreated, he was shouted at, he's treated like a little boy, in front of, the players. I don't know, but you don't want to have that situation. You need, at least, if you don't like something, okay, put your head down, pull your socks up, work hard. After the training finish, one of the most proper way to do it is to go speak to the gaffer privately. And then man to man, only can squash it. That's how I know, players should demonstrate in a squad. Yeah. You don't like something, okay, fine. You don't like it, but put your head down, respect your teammates, yeah, respect your country, respect your club, pull up your socks, work hard, and then when the trading finish, you go behind the scene, go into the gaffer room, and have a man-to-man private talk, and you like gaffer, like this, I don't like that. Then you can squash it man-to-man, and I think you will have a better understanding of that player, and probably the coach will probably even respect that player even more because him come to him privately rather than show it amongst outside of the players that listen. You fund the coach off, you fund the assistant coach, somebody, but that's just me. Franklin, don't read up. I think that was that. You think we should approach a game? I think all right. So goes back to that. Why most of you guys didn't want the assistant coach to get the job, yeah, but you accept him now, yeah? Oh, I think I went through that as already. He's not schoolboy football. So it's schoolboy football. Oh, that I think I've heard, I think I've heard it around the place as well. But one thing I can say is though, I think I didn't make an appearance on the Miguel Cole team when he was the U20 coach at Barbican Football Club. I was just training with, as an under 17 player at the time, I was just training, with the U20 team just to train, amongst, older boys. The tempo was a lot quicker. Those players were more experienced, Manning Cup players. So as a youth like me, just finished play, under 16 in high school, it really shows up my level of listen, you need to go to the next level. You need to work a lot more harder, on your reaction because playing, calls, playing schoolboy football and train amongst those players, it's totally different. It's a faster pace. So it's the same. Playing under 17 for one of those biggest football club, in the world, and to step up to their senior team, the pace, the momentum, it will be a lot quicker. Your reaction time going to have to be a lot more quicker. So Miguel Cole, what I've known, he's a very intelligent person as well. What he have done, to really, regroup and reform but that, that culture around Norman Manley, high school as well. He's a top notch, he's a motivational speaker. Miguel, when Cole speak, he's like this. He loves to speak. He loves challenge of motivate a squad. And I think he's an all-round, gaffer as well. Tactically, he loves to be like a tactical genius on the pitch. And when he's on that training pitch, just read into what you see, on the JFF YouTube page. Look how he start the game. Hey, this is very insightful of what he really wants. He's going to get to the T and he's going to dot all the I's. So, very good and speaking, very good and motivating players. He's a strict coach. Him to deal with hypocrisy around the squad. He let you know as it is, but he will have respect and he will command your respect, and I hope you command his respect as well, and he will, have a lot of 1v1. If you don't like what you doing on a training pitch, he will let you know. Yeah, and he can shout. I don't know if he's a bit mature now, but I know back then he loved to shout at players just by getting them to do the right stuff. So he's a little good all-round package, but moving away from the Jamaican space, going away to the Middle East, which I think development that I've done a lot for Miguel Cole and, to further his education in the game. So I think he going to be one for the future for the Reggae Boyz. Yeah. And I think there's a lot more, he knows that he needs to learn. And I think this experience, I think maybe now, with connecting with Ruler Speed, a different person, by, a bit more mature, he will know exactly how to maneuver himself in around this camp. So I don't have any doubt that Miguel Cole lack certain things where he will suffer or he will, be a failure in this camp. I think he will do everything from his heart and he will put Jamaica first and he will make sure that, listen, his words get across the players, very good and everybody understand what he really want for you, on that training pitch. So that's where, I'm going to leave it. Yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. Bless upon yourself. Reggae Boyz Nation, this is war. Show the quality we possess. Bring that quality, to light. No excuses. Yes, no excuses because we have the pieces. Show New Caledonia or show Old Caledonia. The man say, yo, there no excuses because we have the pieces. Show Old Caledonia that Jamaica is no joke, Guys, the people, listen, man, people, we are going to do it. Yeah, we are going to do it. Cole at the boss, real leader. Yeah, I think he's a very good leader. I think, if he can continue and, get himself in around better football team and get himself, some proper head coach job in this world, I think he will be a very good coach. And the thing is, Cole, what I love with him, he loves to learn. Yeah, he loves to learn and he loves challenges. He loves challenges and he loves to learn. That's what I like with him. And when you have a coach that listen well, he loves to learn and he likes challenges, the pressure that comes with challenge, he will deal with that any day at any given time. You understand? So big up Cole. I think he's a very good personnel to be around the team. And I don't think, I don't want to say don't think. What I get from him as well, Cole is not the one that's going to bring, a lot of bias, or controversy, stuff around the camp. He's very positive. You understand? He's very positive. I don't see much any negative around Miguel Cole. Yeah, everybody have them flaws, but he's that professional where, he won't make what is happening in front of him really to show the negative side of him. Yeah, he might deal with that behind the scene, but not in the public domain. So that's where I leave it, man. People, bless upon yourself. I'm out. See you guys. Look more again. Yeah, man. Look more again, people. Look more. We are gonna get in this again. Look more. Whether or not it is my channel, whether or it is somebody's channel. Yeah. So look more. We're gonna get into this again. Really appreciate you guys as usual. Understand? So we are bounce and we are walk. We are vibe. We are teach. Yeah. Ball pre, big up yourself. We're out, people. So we are move on. We are chat along. Big up to everybody who contribute in the chat. Big up to everybody who didn't pass the paid. Yeah. Big up my beautiful mama as well. Yes, Nicola Siblis. Big up yourself. And she said, like up the video. Yeah. So big up on yourself, people. That's where we're going to leave it. Catch you guys again sometime. Look more from now. Bless up on yourself. I'm out.